So, it's been quite a few days. The weekend, combined with some pretty meh prompts and other deadlines, made it kinda hard to create anything. Since this is the first year I've tried to actually do one of these art challenges, let alone film it, I've given myself a pat on the back and allowed myself a couple days to finish other things and create for myself as like a little break. Just means the pressure's on for next year. Anyway, welcome back to my channel and to the 28th day of my ARTOBER challenge. If you want to watch the previous videos, I've linked them down below and they will be in my ARTOBER 2020 playlist. I explained how this challenge works in my earlier videos, so I'm just gonna go right on ahead. Today, I spun the wheel and it landed on Witchtober. I randomized the day number and got day 2, which is the prompt candle. I then flipped a coin and got heads for set A, and the random number I got was 35. It's an interesting palette, but I'm pretty sure my markers aren't going to match very well. I don't really have many purples and pinks. The ones I do have are either too bright or too dark, like super saturated, or just the wrong tone completely, but I'll make do with what I have. Now, the prompt candle was pretty simple, which I thought was a good thing since it's been a couple days, but I ran into the problem of it being too simple, mostly because I only wanted to draw the candle and not anything surrounding the candle, and I couldn't really figure out what kind of candle I wanted to do. A tall, like, wax stripping candle was the first thought, but I got bored with it, and a tea light idea was kind of cute, but again, it was just a little simple and I couldn't come up with enough to like go around it that I really felt like doing, which, yes, I know I should practice backgrounds, but hush, I didn't want to. The best idea for a background would have been like a shelf or table or books, because that's kind of all I felt like I could really accomplish today. But if I'm being honest, it would have taken much longer, and I have things to do today and people to see, and I didn't feel like being too detailed. I'm saving that energy for the last day, you know? As an aside, I'll try to lay out my future videos on that last day too. Not just for you guys, but so that I can hold myself accountable, because fun fact, if you tell people that you're going to do something, it's more likely you're going to follow through with it, as long as you're held accountable. Because the thing is, sometimes it can backfire in that it'll make you feel like you already completed the task just by telling people, which is why you should always have people that are willing to hold you accountable for what you say you're gonna do, and that's the key here. Otherwise, keep it to yourself. So just remember that. It can be helpful when you have the right people around you. Anyway, where was I? The cauldron idea actually came from Pinterest. I saw a picture of someone holding like a mini brazier, I think is what they're called, and inside was a candle, which I thought was neat, so I did my own little spin on it. I had a lot of initial trouble with the shape of the cauldron since it was relatively symmetrical and involved lots of ovals and circles and curved pieces. The green pencil that I was using in the beginning was working fine, but I found that there's this one edge of it that scratches and scrapes weirdly against the paper. I can't find where it is on the actual pencil, and I'm sure it would go away if I sharpened it like a little bit more, but it's already kind of sharp, and it was getting kind of annoying, so instead of sharpening it, I grabbed my mechanical pencil with slightly darker lead and kept working on the piece. That green pencil, as an aside, was part of a set of general's pencils from like 4H to 8B. I'd have to look. 4H being I think the hardest lead and thus like the lightest, and 8B is like really soft lead and produces really dark lines. I think that's how it works. There were like 8-10 pencils and a sharpener and eraser that came with the set, and this was the lightest one, the 4H, so I assume that means it's a hard lead, but I might be wrong. I got the set like way back in high school and just never felt like using it because I always had mechanical pencils or something else lying around. Even though my art teacher was pretty insistent on us using traditional pencils. The first art teacher, not the later one we had. She was nice, but I don't know. I sort of get the reason behind using traditional pencils more, but I kind of don't, because mechanical pencils get sharper lines consistently and I can make tighter details. Hold on, I'm Googling this. Okay, so fun fact, the first mechanical pencil was patented in 1822, which is like 200 years ago, so that's pretty neat. Otherwise, I'm finding it's mostly personal preference. Whether or not you like sharp points is basically where they're going with it. which I mean can be achieved with wooden pencils if you really sharpen them, but then you have to keep sharpening them and they eventually just get too short to use. Whereas mechanical pencils don't, obviously, though the lead is usually thinner and easier to break. I see some people saying that you need like a variety of like soft versus hard, dark versus light, which seems kind of excessive to me, but to each their own, I suppose. I mean, I have the set, but it was given to me, so I just kind of have them. Off track again, back to the drawing. I inked it with a regular 0.8 fine liner and said, yep, looks good. Then I moved straight on to colors. I used mostly the Artist Loft markers, and yeah, now I'm starting to see why people don't like these. The ones I picked were streaky, didn't blend great in large areas. In the smaller areas, it was kind of fine. Like around the feet, handles, like trimming, it did fine. But the giant section in the middle, no. Yeah, no. No matter how much I tried to blend, it just wasn't happening. So what I did instead, after realizing it looked like crap, was take my Ice Grain 9 shade from my Spectrum Noir set and colored in the entire middle section. The smaller pieces of the cauldron I allowed to stay purple for some like visual interest, and yeah, I think it worked out fine. For the last color as part of the palette, basically the white, I used my gel pen to add some shine onto the cauldron. My hands were starting to become a little unsteady at this point, so I lined the best I could around the rim and the left edges of the piece, because that's kind of where I was thinking the light was coming from. But I actually rested my hand in the ink while it was still wet, and it smudged a tiny bit. Thankfully, most of the mess was on my hand, so no harm done. I also added it to the handle to distinguish the curve of the metal. Then I added a flame to finish things off, kind of out of nowhere really, so I didn't anticipate any of the lighting that was going to go with that. And it wasn't part of the color scheme, but I considered it finished after that. And that's it for day 28 of my ARTOBER challenge. This was more of a brief sketch and ink session to just get an idea out rather than like a finished illustration, but it was still nice to give it a shot. Still gotta work on lighting, and that's probably another video idea I should write down if I haven't already. I think I did. Anyway, remember to like the video if you enjoyed this, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you all again tomorrow. Bye bye!